But let's just shift our focus to some of the other issues that are really creating headlines around the country. And I think the census that we had yesterday, and especially what it threw up about the child sex ratio, is something that we do need to turn our attention to. We're now being joined by Renuka Chaudhary, former Minister of State for Women and Child Welfare, and also by Smriti Irani, both of them joining us. Smriti, can I just start with you? What the figures that have been thrown up by the census, does it cause you a certain amount of alarm? Are we failing somewhere that the child sex ratio is continuing to go? It really means that little girls are being murdered. Female infanticide, feticide, all sorts of things.
You know, it doesn't need a certain amount of alarm. It's an extremely alarming situation. According to data available today, we have 2,000 girls going missing every day. And if you look at the data available for cases registered for female feticide in the year 2010, you will see that a mere 107 cases were registered. Hence, it just goes to show that implementation of the law in the strictest form possible is a very, very big challenge. Today, there are very few whistleblowers when it comes to exposing connivance between a patient and a doctor. We have 35,000 so-called registered ultrasound clinics running in our country, and very few people who are aware that there needs to be a very intensive monitoring mechanism which needs to be there, enforced on the ground.
All right, Renuka Chaudhary, let me just get you in. You've been the minister in this entire field. Do these figures show that government policies have more or less failed the girl child completely?
Now, like I keep saying, this is not just some instant formula solution, you know. These are things that we need to change a mindset which has evolved over centuries. And despite education, what we call education, an educated civilization doesn't respect the girl child. So basically it is about altering the mindset, our attitude, our approach to the girl child. And what we've done is very, very cursory, and what you need to do is set in a national campaign, and it should be reward linked. I don't think Planning Commission should give money to any state which has poor sex ratios. And you have to be able to incentivize state governments to pick up and start running, focused drive on the girl child.
You know, creating awareness is fine, and that's something we've been trying to do, and it's something which we will no doubt continue to do. But don't we also need tougher penalties? Anybody who in any way helps with female feticide or infanticide, charge them with abetment to murder, for example?
You know, we can enhance the penalties, and we can put more stringent actions. The porosity is in the people who implement these. Now, we can make laws and rules till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, the man at the point who has to do the interpretation of what has happened and implement the law, that's your biggest porosity, and that is your local thanedar or the constable.
All right, Smriti Irani, anything which you would do tomorrow to try and make the situation better?
You know, it's very rare to find me and Renuka ji speaking in the same voice on one platform, but I totally agree that it's a mindset issue which is a challenge which needs to be overcome first. The implementation of the law is possible when there is a social revolution, or there is a need and an understanding in society that this is a challenge that needs to be met sooner than later. There are this provisional data which has thrown up this alarming statistic also that male feticide is not a rural phenomena. In fact, the more educated people in urban societies have the money to indulge in such a malpractice and in such an illegal act. So yes, on a war footing, we need to undertake not only awareness programs, but also ensure that penalties and implementation of the law is done in the strictest fashion possible. But Vikram, on a single note where I could hear Sir Martin speak to you, I mean, we need to set our priorities right. NDTV had undertaken a campaign to save the tigers. Maybe it's time for you to take up a campaign to save the girl child.
It's not a bad idea, Smriti. We perhaps should think about doing just that. We're going to get you in to help on that. Smriti Irani, thank you so much for joining us. Renuka Chaudhary, any final quick thoughts from you? Anything at all that gives you some ray of hope? I mean, some of the laggard states actually have done slightly better than they've done earlier. Any cause for hope in the future?
No, you have to. It is important that all the men realize that their very survival is being threatened today if you have a lack of ratio of girl children. Can you imagine how you're going to administer a society where there is such a lopsided gender equation? How much more insecure women and girl children who survive 1 to 6 and go into it. When I brought in Domestic Violence Act and when I wanted to bring in the Sexual Harassment Act, a lot of men got together and they were idiotic people who were protesting about saving the family. What is your family without a woman?
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone, fastest scorecard, special analysis and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.